Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Podcast. How is everybody doing today? I'm really excited about this topic, and I know Kate is too, and we're just chatting a little bit about this, and she said she was chatting about it last night. So I'm going to just leave that out there for now and not tell you what the topic is yet. Create some suspense there for you. So if you're brand new to our podcast, we want to say welcome to the Startup Nation family. We're so glad that you decided to join us, and we hope that you guys go back for the newcomers and listen to last week's podcast as we had Tig O'Connor from Theory About That, talking about the therapy client journey. So that was really interesting, and especially since Kate and I are such geeks about marketing, we definitely love that podcast, but it will help you understand the psychology really about how clients make a decision to work with you. So definitely check that out. And for our newcomers and also our loyal listeners, if you have not grabbed your Dream Private Practice playbook, it's a free playbook that Kate and I utilize to create our own Dream Private Practices and even the Private Practice Startup. We want to give that to you for free. Head on over to privatepracticestartup.com, make your way to the resources tab, and there you will see it there. So today's guest is Yuri Elkaim, and we are talking about why hustle and grind culture must die. I love this topic. So a little bit about Yuri is the CEO and founder of the Healthpreneur Group and has helped hundreds of health professionals and practice owners find time, location, and financial freedom by launching thriving virtual practices and programs. Yuri's vision is to see 1 billion people impacted through the services of his clients. Welcome, Yuri.
What's up, ladies?
Good What's up?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know that when, you guys had reached out and there was like a list of topics, I immediately sent a few topics to Kate and she was like, I like that one. I was like, I thought you were going to choose that one because I wanted to talk about that too. So talk a little bit. I'm assuming there's a story here about why this is so important for you. Share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started in this, so I lost my hair when I was 17. That's why I don't have any, to an autoimmune condition. That's what got me into health. And when I was at university for kinesiology and health sciences, I also started training clients on the side. And I really enjoyed that. Finished my degree, went back to school to get a degree in holistic nutrition. And then with those skills, I was like full-time helping people one-on-one in person. And after doing that for 7 years, I was toast. I was just like 12 to 14 hours a day, nonstop. And the moment that was like the straw that broke the camel's back for me was I took a trip to Europe with my then girlfriend, now wife, and we saved up all this money for 6 weeks, for a 6-week trip. And I remember being over there, and every single time we'd go for food or buy something, it was like the bank account of the trip money was just going down. But the problem was that nothing was filling it up, because when I wasn't working, I wasn't making money. And I couldn't stand that feeling. And I said, I never, ever, ever want to do that again. Like I need to build a business that can not only provide income while I'm not there, but also more importantly, help my clients transform even without my presence. And that was a big shift in the way I thought about how to help people. And I was just, 7 years of burnout. It was too much. And so, I tell people like, that's why I don't have any hair, but realistically, like I lost my hair way before that. But if I did have hair, I might have lost it anyway. So that's where it all comes from. And I just, I came online in 2006 as a way of like living the laptop lifestyle. Everyone was like, yeah, we'll just like kick your feet up, passive income. Spoiler alert, that doesn't exist. And it didn't happen. And so when I came online from 2006 to 2009, it was more of the grind because I was trying to figure out how to do this stuff. And I thought I could do it by myself. I didn't need mentorship because apparently I'd done this before, which I didn't. And again, it was just struggle bus. So it took me a long time. Apparently I'm a very slow, stubborn learner. It took me a long time to recognize that like there's a time to put in the work. There's a time to work hard for sure, but you cannot sustain that. It's impossible to sustain that. And that's where I started to think about how can I build systems that produce results as opposed to me necessarily having to do everything? And even as a recipient of healthcare, whether it's, with a naturopath, chiropractor, medical doctor, I've noticed over the years that's very transactional. Like, I go in and get help, I give my credit card, I pay for the session, I leave. Things eventually kind of taper off. I have, back issues again, I go back in to see the chiro, and it just rinses and repeats. And it's a very transactional model. And I thought, this isn't good for me. It's not necessarily great for the practitioner. And I've always really thought differently about how care could be delivered in a way that's better for the patient or client, but also better for the practitioner and their business and their lifestyle. So
very interesting. So before we go on, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor.
Is managing your practice stressing you out? Try Therapy Notes. It makes billing, notes, scheduling, and telehealth a whole lot easier. Check it out, and you will quickly see why it's rated the highest EHR on Trustpilot with over 1,000 verified customer reviews and an average customer rating of 4.9 or 5 stars. You'll notice the difference from the first day you sign up for the trial. They offer live phone support 7 days a week. So when you have questions, you can quickly reach someone who can help. You are never wasting time looking for answers. If you're coming from another EHR, they make the transition really easy. Therapy Notes will import your client's demographic data free of charge during your trial so you can get going right away. Use the promo code PPS to get your first 2 months for free, or try out Therapy Notes for free, no strings attached, including their very reliable telehealth platform. Make 2021 the best year yet with Therapy Notes. Okay, everybody, it's sponsor time. Look, this past year was super stressful, but if you own a private practice, this could also be the year that you switch to a better payroll. Gusto wasn't just built for small businesses, it was built for the people behind them. Their online payroll is so easy to use. Gusto can automatically calculate paychecks and file all of your payroll taxes, which means you have more time to actually run your business. Plus, Gusto does way more than just payroll. Gusto helps with time tracking, health insurance, 401ks, onboarding, benefits, offer letters, access to HR experts. You get the idea. It's super easy to set up and get started. And if you're moving from another provider, they can transfer all of the data for you. It's no surprise that 94% of customers are likely to recommend Gusto. Here's the best part. Because you're a listener, you get 3 months totally free. All you have to do is go to gusto.com/PPS, as in the private practice startup. That's gusto.com/PPS.
So you're sitting there thinking about how can care be better, and then where does that lead you to?
So initially, it actually started at the tail end of when I was training clients. And I had a client who were working on one day, he's huffing and puffing the storm, and he's like, why don't you put your voice on tape? And this is just when the iPod had come out in 2005. And I was like, I have no clue how to do that, but that sounds like a very intriguing idea. And I thought to myself, for the next couple of days, I was like, what does that look like? And I started to think of what if I could articulate or extract how I help clients in person and actually record a workout so that my clients, when they're not with me, could actually have my voice on their headphones to work out with them. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And so that was actually my first product back in 2005. And that really opened the door to this whole thought process of productizing your service. And this is the thing is, a lot of health professionals undervalue their value. They think it's just second nature. Why doesn't everyone know this? No one knows this stuff, right? And so I think the big value in terms of creating freedom from your practice, not that you ever want to necessarily retire from helping people, but doing so in a way that gives you more freedom, is being able to articulate how you do what you do. Because even though there may be let's say a one-on-one process that you take clients through, there's still a meta level above that. There's a process you might not even be aware of that you walk people through. And if you can start to document that starts to create freedom. It's not to say that, hey, do this course by yourself. It's about eventually, if you had other people in your clinic or that worked with you, they would all follow a similar methodology, whether or not you were present. And when we start to approach our care as not so much what we do, but what we know, and we can start to articulate our IP, our intellectual property, now we start to create a system that is no longer reliant on our time, but on our expertise. And so that's where a lot of the shifting started. And that's one of the things that we help our clients with, because, whether they're a massage therapist or a psychotherapist or a chiropractor, they all have a process. It's just whether they're aware of that or not. And then being able to help them articulate that.
And so you're right. I can imagine that many therapists listening are thinking like, yeah, but my clients need me, or how am I supposed to duplicate myself? Or, that personal touch is really important. Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah, so I completely agree that personal touch is massively important. I'll just share my 3C model with you because hopefully to give you context. I believe that community is the missing factor in most healing. And I think with what's happened with COVID, I mean, we've seen what that's done, right? Isolation. So at least up here in Toronto, Florida, you guys are more open. So, at the base, so think of it like a wedding cake, right? So the base layer is what I call curriculum content. So the things you repeat yourself saying over and over and over again, that would be the foundation of what most people would go through. That's what you turn into evergreen video tutorials, right? Where you have a fundamental training or teachings that your clients or patients would go through. The second layer above that is community. I'm a firm believer that even if you work one-on-one with clients, you should put them in some type of community, because community heals. We know that the blue zones, two of the biggest factors in the blue zones are the fact that they're with people like themselves, right? Like that tribe and that community feels so important. So
Yuri, just quickly, I know about the blue zones, but I don't know if everybody does. Just talk briefly about that.
Yes, the blue zones are specific areas in the world where there's small populations that live to above 100 years old. And so they did all this research to look at what are some of the commonalities they have between them. And there's obviously dietary and exercise things, but two of the factors were kind of the sense of being with a tribe and obviously being connected with other people. And I think that's a missing piece in the healthcare model, because we're humans, right? We're social beings. And I think if we can put our clients or patients in a way that's obviously HIPAA compliant, we're not giving medical advice necessarily in a group setting, but we're putting people together in a setting where they come together and support each other and feel part of a family. Most people feel isolated because they feel like they're the only one going through what they're going through. But if you can now bring them into a group of other positive people that are moving in the right direction, now it's I feel really, it's just amazing. And the internet allows us to do that, whether it's, group visits in person or having a Facebook group online. There's lots of great ways we can do this. So that's the second level, which is community. And then the top level on top of that is what I call coaching. So coaching is really just, whether you consider it's consulting, therapy, I think it's all the same thing. It's about helping someone go from here to where they want to go up here. And whatever that process is for you is whatever that process is. So if you're a practitioner who relies mostly on one-on-one because of the sensitivity of certain subject matters or the type of work you do with clients, that's totally fine. But at the same time, you should be empowering your clients to improve on their own. Let me give you an example. So I play a lot of tennis, and my shoulder gets a little bit bummed out sometimes from all the serving. So I'd go see my physio, and my physio would be 20-minute appointments. I'd go in, he'd give me some acupuncture, some soft tissue stuff, and an exercise. And then he's like, yeah, well, whenever you want to come in next, just book an appointment. I'm like, dude, what kind of advice is that? That's the worst thing. That's not helping me. I'm like, tell me what to do. So here's what he should do, at least the way I see it, is I go to see the physio, let's say an initial consult. He says, okay, you have this issue. I'm going to give you some soft tissue stuff right now. I'm going to see you twice a week. And in the interim, I'm going to give you access to an online portal where I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do on your own, 10 minutes a day between now and the next session. And so what that does is now the client becomes more empowered. So me, in this case, becomes more empowered to take my own healing into my own hands. And I improve even without him being with me. So that the next time I do see him, it's yeah, I've made amazing progress. I've done these stretches, these exercises, and now whatever work he does on the shoulder in this case is now amplified by the previous work that I've done on my own. So it's really about empowering our patients and clients to take better control of their own healing journey so that we have to dissociate our time with their results. And we have to put them on opposite ends of the spectrum. That's the biggest challenge in the healthcare model is we're getting paid for time, and you can't scale that. And you can't, whether that's monetary time or impact, you can't scale your time to a point. So we have to think of a different way of doing this. And for us, it's that 3C model of content, or the curriculum, content, community, and then coaching, accountability, support on top of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I have so many thoughts as you're speaking. So let's just take a quick moment for our sponsor and then we'll dive into that. Greenpoint Med is a leading provider of medical billing and credentialing services to the community of mental health providers and practices. Running a healthcare practice can be hard, and working with insurance can make it even harder. Cut through the complexity of insurance by working with Greenpoint Med on any billing or credentialing need. Greenpoint Med offers customized solutions to providers and practices to help make running the insurance side of your practice simple and efficient. Any state, any insurer, any issue, Greenpoint Med can help. Bonus alert, if you're a Therapy Notes user, Greenpoint Med's billing services are directly integrated with the platform. All billing work is done directly in Therapy Notes. If billing for your practice is taking up too much time or causing way too many headaches, call Greenpoint Med today for a free consultation. Just reference code StartupNation. Go to greenpointmed.com and schedule your free consultation right there on the homepage. Again, that's greenpointmed.com. So many thoughts as you were talking, and I'm like trying to stay present, but I'm excited about what you're saying. And it's funny because one of the things that I've always found in therapy, and actually Kate and I did a podcast I feel like years ago at this point, with a company called, I think it was TheraChat, where they actually have, it's like a homework app. And, being a therapist myself, but also sitting on the other side as a client sometimes, you kind of just get into your week and your day, and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing these things, unless you're in excruciating pain, it's not a reminder. Yeah. And the level of accountability, right? So technology provides us this really cool thing. If you're whoever it is setting you up in some type of portal, they can usually see if you've checked in and what you're doing, and that accountability factor to be like, oh, I saw that you did the 10 minutes of this, or, oh, I see that you guys did check in and I see that you guys did some homework here. And the other thing that we talk about as therapists in regards to client outcomes is really about their motivation, right? About doing the work, right? And isn't this a way to kind of be in their ear outside of session to help push them along? And when they're making progress, yes, they attribute the progress to themselves, but then they also attribute it to you and saying wow, you really helped me, right? And then what does that do? That creates more word of mouth, raving fans, and things like that. So I love how you're talking about all of this. And I wish there were more technologies, especially in the therapy world, in regards to these different aspects. And you're really giving us something to think about, as therapists. And I'm sure there's some therapists that are out there doing things like this already. And I really love the idea.
Well, I think it's part of it too, is just being innovative as an individual, to think of, if you have a team as a company, the most important thing you can do as your company grows is develop your team into amazing leaders, right? So if you take that approach, for instance, when I started, I spent most of my time coaching my clients. Now I spend most of my time coaching my team so they can coach our clients to an even greater level. So my ultimate leverage is in empowering humans to become the best versions of themselves. And whether that's with a client or a team member or a leader within our company, that's really important because if we think of the world in general, if we think of the economy, the GDP, all that kind of stuff, the more valuable we become as individuals, the more we can contribute to society, and society at large becomes better. And I think the challenge with the healthcare model typically is it's been I'm sick, I'm going to go see a doctor makes me feel better. That's the problem, because no one takes responsibility for their own health. Number one, because they don't even understand how their body works, or their, all that stuff. But I think there's got to be a shift in the way people approach healing, because we are our best. We have to become our best doctors, and we don't necessarily have to rely on someone else to take care of us. But that person, that therapist, that practitioner, can be the Sherpa to walk with us through that path. And in the long term, that's how we produce better outcomes, because now we've taught the client how to fish instead of just giving them the fish all the time.
Nice. And Yuri, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, because, business is often a lot of mindset stuff, and we have to overcome ourselves constantly to evolve and grow. What are some of the mindset issues that you came across or that you coach other people in beginning to decrease the hustle and grind mentality to help them have more time, freedom, all of that?
I think the biggest mindset is the delivery piece. It's detaching yourself from your clients' outcomes. That is the fundamental paradigm shift that has to happen. And one of the things that we see a lot of is like, well, I'm a special snowflake. I do something that no one else can do. I'm like, that's great. Now you've just handcuffed yourself to a job you can never escape. Are you okay with that? No. Okay. Then you have to be open to a different way of delivering. And again, it's not to say that we're just like, go watch these videos and never touch it with your clients. But the delivery has to be figured out first, because if you don't figure out how to better deliver care in a way that detaches your time, then you can never scale the acquisition side of things, right? If I sent you 100 clients tomorrow and you have no way of helping those 100 people, now you have a waiting list, which I call a suffering list, or they're going to go somewhere else. So it's not to say that everyone has to build a huge scalable business. Like everyone's business is, their ambitions is completely up to them. But I think, we get a lot of people who are like, yeah, my practice is full. I'm like, well, the only thing worse than an empty practice is a full practice. Mm. Because the question I then ask is, well, that's amazing, but what happens if you take a week off next week? And in most cases, it's like my clients don't get helped and I don't get paid. That's not a business. It's as simple as that. And there's nothing wrong with doing one-on-one. And if you want to do that, that's completely fine. However, you have to understand that every business has a capacity ceiling. And that basically means the number of clients or patients you can help and what the money is you can make based on that. So you can't see more than, let's say, 24 hours of patients in a day, even if you could work 24 hours. And so I think it's just being realistic about, or honest really with ourselves to say, like, what is my goal? Like my goal in life is I have very big ambitions and very big goals. So I have to build a business around that, but it never compromises the quality of care for our clients. Because the purpose of business, again, sadly, it's a little bit misconstrued nowadays. Well, all these businesses on Wall Street are talking about profit and all that kind of stuff. But the purpose of business, according to Adam Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations back in the day, when it comes to capitalism, is essentially to advance a better cause or help the consumer. So as a business owner, again, maybe the shift is not just therapist, but business owner, right? Moving away from that, kind of putting that different hat on if you so choose. But if you are a business owner, you have to think about the number one goal of my business. The reason I exist in business is to help my clients or patients achieve a better outcome. And everything flows from that. It's not about how do I make more money? How do I take more time off? All of that can flow from the articulation and focus on your clients and patients first. And when we start to think about it, how do we obsess in a healthy way about delivering better results for our clients? A lot of times we start coming up with better solutions than what we've been taught going through the typical medical model. So what that comes down to, going back to the hustle and grind culture, is really the development of systems, right? Processes, not to turn the business necessarily into automation necessarily, but really thinking about how do I, as we talked about earlier, really remove my time from the equation, right? If I have a process, I can teach other people, let's say within the clinic or the company, to help my clients do certain aspects of what it is they do. Or maybe it's, leveraged content like we talked about. And if you have to do one-on-one, that's fine, but find a way to make that work for you. I spoke with a lady who's a naturopath the other week, and I just asked her, I'm like, well, what's your process? Person books a call to you, then, whatever. She said, once a client comes on, they have a 3-hour initial consult. I was like, how do you do that, right? So I'm like, you got to find a way you don't need to be with someone for 3 hours on the first visit, right? So there's more efficient ways of seeing and helping people. And yeah, my job is just, helping practitioners see that so they can build a better business that ultimately helps more people, including themselves. So I think that, to go back to your question, the fundamental thing is shifting the focus from I'm just a practitioner or a therapist to actually being a business owner / an investor in my business.
Nice. I love this conversation because Kate and I are actually systems geeks. We love systems, right? And I always say my favorite definition of business is a system that works without you. You know, the movie The Founder talks about Roy Kroc and McDonald's and stuff like that. Like, I clap at the scene where he's on the playground and he's drawing chalk and he's like, okay, well, let's see how you guys do the burgers and cook. Like, that's so exciting. It's like, yay. And then they figured out and it works like this well-oiled machine. And that's what systems can do, right? And I'm
100%.
Definitely, I'm a big, I love The Prophet, Marcus Lemonis, where he talks about people, product, process. All of those things are just really exciting. If you are in that place of really wanting to be a business owner, these things are essential. Technology leverage, people leverage, but systems and processes are so important. And they really can do a great deal. I know Kate and I, we do love systems. It's definitely a pain in the butt. I am not going to lie. When you are creating a system, it's a pain because it's so minute. You got to figure it out. And then you have to watch someone utilize your system, right? Because you're like, oh, that's a hole there. That's a mistake there. Oh, that doesn't work. I didn't communicate that correctly. But once you have the system, it just works effortlessly. Of course, sometimes you have to tweak it, but yeah, I love this discussion.
Because the alternative is, if you don't have that, then you do everything yourself.
Right? Which is
so
not sustainable or scalable, like you were saying. I've just been listening and really inspired by your conversation here today. And I know for therapists, I know for myself, I got into private practice because I wanted to have the freedom and flexibility to live my life on my own terms and to work when I wanted to work and, to be more present at home and to have freedom to travel when I wanted to and all of that. But you can't do that if you're tied to your business. So I love how you're inspiring people to think outside the box. And as therapists, yes, we are service providers, but it doesn't mean that you have to be tied to the therapy room at all times. There's really creative and innovative ways to be able to serve people in different ways so that it's not the dollars for hours stuck in a therapy chair mentality. So I like how you're inspiring everybody to think outside the box and think how they might be able to come up with some solutions for the services that they offer that are not dependent upon them to provide, that hour of time in order to get paid so that they can have even more freedom and flexibility to live the life that they ultimately desire.
Yeah. And that's just on the delivery side. If we even talk about the marketing side, if most people come to us and they want more clients, we're like, how do you get clients currently? They're like, word of mouth. I'm like, that's great, but that's not a business plan. You can't take that to an investor or the bank and be like, here's my plan. I hope people will just talk about me. So there's just a lot of stuff. And again, I don't think the challenge is that most people don't know better because they're not taught this stuff in school. And so we go through years and years and years to become great technicians. And then they're like, good luck. All the best setting up that business. And you're like, what? Yeah. And so then we started posting these ridiculous Instagram videos and being on social media all day long. And again, none of that, if it requires any degree of sweat on your part, and you step away from that for a second, that's not a system. It's okay to have aspects like that if you want to do that. But again, if everything you're doing, if your business relies on your effort, it's not a business, right? And it's okay if that's not where you want to go. But if you do want a business that makes more money, impacts more people, and ultimately creates more freedom for you, you just have to be realistic about the situation and look at ways to maybe improve it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. I mean, we could go on and talk more and more. This is such a great topic. And, I hope that this podcast really inspires, for those of you who are listening, for you to kind of maybe walk through your own business and think about how you can do things better, remove yourself, utilize technology. In the therapy world, it's creating a group practice. And then like Kate did, is that worked? She just duplicated the system in another location. Maybe it's creating an e-course. There's so many ways to duplicate yourself through a system or a process. I know for me, when I was working with couples, I would get sick of my own stories because it was I'm saying the same thing over and over. They don't have any clue that I'm saying the same story. And it was it's just easy to share the same story that you just don't even mentally think of another one. You know what I mean? So how can you take what you already do and what you explain and stuff like that and create it into a process and a system so your business can begin to work a little bit more without you, if that's your desire. And if you're in a place where you want to be, a therapist and you just love that, then that's cool too. But obviously we're really talking about the death to hustle and grind mentality today. And Yuri, thank you so much. What do you hope our listeners take away from your message today?
I think the opportunity is to think differently. I think, COVID was a big kick in the ass for a lot of businesses, especially, with those with brick and mortars. And statistically, 88% of companies that were on the Fortune 500 list in 1965 no longer exist. And the reason is that they didn't adapt. And we look at Kodak. They invented digital photography and they sat on it because they didn't want to change. Blockbuster they met with Netflix when Netflix was, in their first year and a half, and they decided to turn them down. And again, a lot of businesses become dinosaurs because they're stuck in their old ways and they're not willing to see the future. What COVID has done in 1 year, the Industrial Revolution took about 100 years to change the world. The internet took about 10 to 15 years. COVID took 1 year to fundamentally shift how people consume, in our case, healthcare. A lot of practitioners came to us last year because they're like, I've been thinking about going online, but now I have to. And the thing too is my dad's 71, and I remember him telling me a couple months ago, he was in the car on Zoom with his doctor. I was like, all right, this is now being accepted by more people, right? And it's fundamentally changed how we're operating as businesses and consuming, specifically in our case, healthcare. And I think it's really important to just be adaptable and think outside the box. So that's my final message, I guess, on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I know that you have something for our audience. What is that?
Yeah. So, a little bit of an offshoot. We have a book called The Strong 60. And this is something I've been working on for the past year and a half. It's called The Strong 60, the unconventional path to becoming the person you're capable of becoming. Doing this work for as long as I have, I've recognized, we talked about mindset a little bit, is you can have all the tactics and all the strategies in the world, but still there's stuff that stands in our way. So The Strong 60 was a program I built for myself to build more discipline and just kind of getting comfortable doing uncomfortable things. And so it's a tremendous program that we've released about a week ago. And your listeners and viewers can grab it on Amazon for a couple bucks for making it super accessible via Kindle as well as paperback. And yeah, so just type in Strong 60 and on Amazon they can find it there.
Perfect. Thank you so very much for being with us and kind of sharing your story and your passion and really your commitment and impact in the world. Startup Nation, we hope that you guys join us next week as we talk with Andrea Jones all about, and it's kind of along the lines of what we're talking about today, how to automate your social media while maintaining that personal touch.
Thank you, Yuri, for being here. This was a really inspirational message today, and I hope the Startup Nation enjoyed it as much as we did. It's time for our superhero shout out for today's episode, which comes from Kathy Mathis. Kathy says, I not only love their podcast, I found their free attorney-approved HIPAA form to be incredibly helpful, and all around they are so easy to work with. Thank you, Cassie. We appreciate your feedback, and if you all are in need of your attorney-approved HIPAA private practice paperwork form for free, definitely check that out. You can access that at our website over under the resources tab. We love to hear from you all and to hear your feedback about the types of episodes that you're wanting more of. If there's a topic we haven't done yet, let us know. And we also want to encourage you to subscribe, rate, and review the show. We always love to be able to get that feedback and to hear the messages of how we're impacting you along your journey from startup to mastery, because that's why we're doing what we're doing. So stay inspired, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Take care.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.